Hi, my name is Katie Cahoon, and I will be going over crisis communication for the BetterHelp therapy app regarding BetterHelp's crisis situation in 2022. In this presentation, I will demonstrate the company's goals throughout the crisis, tools to use, and a crisis management strategy. This presentation will be conducted as if I were consulting the company in real time in response to the crisis. Currently, BetterHelp is facing a crisis situation, and I am here today to help manage it and mitigate any negative outcomes during and after. I have laid out some details regarding the crisis at present, which include the public's view on the compensation structure of the company's therapists, the reported selling of user data to third-party companies, data which includes a patient's age, gender identity, sexual orientation, and therapy session info. And lastly, scrutiny over the effectiveness of the mental health services provided. First, we will be establishing some goals as BetterHelp moves through the crisis. We want to establish some KPIs to help determine the success of these crisis management efforts. There will be bad publicity at first, and it's something that cannot be avoided. BetterHelp will track the number of negative articles being published for at least 1 month. These articles include blog posts and news articles. The goal is to decrease the publishing of those articles by 50% after 1 week and by 90% after 1 month. The image below of the Levi Strauss crisis gives a great example of what the success of these goals looks like over a similar timeline. The next goal addresses the amount of negative sentiment across all social media channels. Here we want to see a reduction in the volume of negative sentiment as much as possible over a 1 month time frame. The goals are a 50% decrease over the first week and a 90% decrease by the end of the month. The third set of goals include KPIs for public opinion and customer satisfaction. BetterHelp will limit its own output on the crisis to only 10% of all content published. Additional goals are to see at least 75% of BetterHelp patients reporting positive customer satisfaction and at least 80% of ratings being 4 stars or above at the 1 month mark after the initial crisis. During the crisis, we want to keep the loss of monthly memberships to 15% or less. BetterHelp will need some tools to help achieve these goals. The first tool is a social media listening tool, such as Sprout Social. Tools like this help predict an impending crisis. When there is a spike in social mentions, it is usually a good indicator a crisis is happening. Social media listening tools also give real-time alerts on brand mentions and specific keywords to help with response times. Companies can use data from these brand mentions to identify keywords being used surrounding the crisis event and to listen to what the public is saying about it. Another set of tools are the use of surveys and reviews. An overnight poll is a quick way to find how this crisis is affecting BetterHelp's customer base and their views on it. Reviews are another way to find what customers think of the brand. Both of these methods give the company information so it can create solutions and mend relationships. After the dust has settled, then follow-up surveys can be used to determine the success of BetterHelp's crisis efforts. Also, collecting positive reviews afterwards will offset any negative reviews the company received during the crisis. Here is the proposed strategy to overcome BetterHelp's current crisis. First is to develop a distribution strategy. A press release and social media posts will need to be drafted as soon as possible. The key here is to be transparent, honest, and for the company to own up to any mistakes that were made, even if those mistakes are not the company's fault. If there is any information the company does not currently have, assure the public it will release updates as more information comes, then follow through. Next is to create a plan for social media channels. BetterHelp will use Sprout Social to monitor brand mentions and respond quickly to any comments or questions online. There will need to be a team available 24/7 during this initial phase of the crisis, since fast responses are critical. The faster the company's responses, the more likely the crisis will pass quickly, as shown in the graphic on the right. The team or teams responsible for social media channels will need to be informed of the company's best practices so that responses are uniform and create trust. SEO is also a tactic BetterHelp will be using to navigate this crisis. The company will need to produce positive content and utilize the keywords identified from Sprout Social in creating that content. From there, SEO strategies will be employed to improve the ranking of all positive content while simultaneously pushing down bad publicity in search results. The most important step of this crisis management plan is the follow-through. By using Sprout Social, surveys, and reviews, BetterHelp will be able to compile information on what the public wants to see in the company's repair efforts. Essentially, what is BetterHelp going to do to fix these issues? BetterHelp will need to create additional distribution plans to announce any changes it's going to make, followed by updates on those implemented changes. I have included a couple of examples of what those changes might look like. Finally, just as mentioned previously, once the dust has settled, a survey will be sent out to BetterHelp's customer base to receive feedback. The company will then use those surveys to continually bring about positive changes and establish trust.